So I did let Mark know that you have some opinions about movies we got to talk about today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's all right.
Sorry, just finishing up my apple juice here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Captain Morgan, so we're good.
Okay, nice. Yeah, Facebook always makes me nervous because going on Facebook Live, I just got off probation after a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a scammer got to me, and I said something really mean about his mother. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think the word box was used. But then I think Facebook messaged me about that, and then I told Facebook the same thing. So I really was in trouble. So my page was at risk for a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and at May 2nd, it just came off. So I'm trying to be extra careful.
You could have just said you're a Nazi, and they'd be like, "Okay, you're back on."
Yeah, right? maybe.
You know.
Okay, I'm just waiting for this to pop up on Facebook so I can get into the manager in case. There we go. There we go. Okay, we are live.
All right.
Okay, I have us muted. I have us muted on Facebook so we don't hear double. Mark, why don't you do the intro today?
Oh, hello everyone. This is Horror Movies and Shit. Today with me, as always, is
Jim.
And another Jim.
That's
The Two Jim Show.
right. It's the Two Jim Show.
That's right.
Yes.
Although we couldn't be more different because he's creative and writes amazing books, and I just talk shit about horror movies.
That has its own level of creativity, Jim. I've heard. Don't sell yourself short, man. I've seen you.
That's true. That's true. So, James, you are involved in something. Do you want to give us a little rundown of the brawl that you're involved in?
Yeah. So in Books of Horror, the biggest and brightest Facebook group for horror books, every year they have the Indie Brawl, which is a March Madness style tournament where a bunch of books put themselves on an intention list. And then at that point, the readers can vote and the other authors can vote on who they want to get in. And out of, I think, 200 plus books, they narrowed it down to 32. I was very fortunate that my book, The Dead Children's Playground, was one of those top 32. And I'm in the brawl this year. And then everybody basically has, from the voting was the beginning of April, and they have from then until the end of the summer, till September. That's when books will be paired up against each other. And we'll go head to head. So for my first round, I've drawn Hush My Darling by Lee Kaine. Fantastic author. I read her book Cursed last year, and I thought it was excellent. It was in the brawl last year. So she's a vet. I'm the first timer here, so it's going to be a really tough matchup, but I do have a copy of it. I'm looking forward to reading it, and then it'll just go through the rounds like any other tournament, and eventually a winner will be crowned.
So the fun thing about the Books of Horror is, for me anyway, as just a reader and not somebody that participates, is the smack talk. I think it's fun. Mark, I know you don't know because you don't know how to read, but
I'm not sagacious at all.
But the smack talk is fun. They make videos and shit post about each other, all in good fun, right? Nobody's really being mean or being derogatory. It's just fun.
Absolutely. It's funny. I just actually had my first time out meeting a lot of these folks at AuthorCon back in March, at the end of March, right before the voting started. I didn't get to meet Lee, but I got to meet a lot of the other brawlers, and everybody's so like awesome. It's just like, I was legitimately sad. Like, all my years in banking and networking, I hated every second of it. It's like, blah, 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 interest rates. Yeah. Liquidity, blah, blah, blah. But I never felt that there. It was just a blast every single day that I was there. And I was sad to go home. I was like, man, I just want to keep hanging out. Somebody might have been RJ Rolls, who started Books of Horror, says like a family reunion with the cousins you actually want to see. And
right.
That's kind of how it felt. And it was really great.
That's awesome. I love the camaraderie between the authors involved in the brawl. That's something that's really heartwarming to see, because all too often, both on Facebook and TikTok, the horror community can be toxic at times. So to see the love and appreciation that everybody has while still having fun with it is great, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean that toxicity. It's funny. It's like the smallest voices getting amplified to the loudest volume, because legitimately everybody I've met has been so amazing. And like, it's funny. We joke and I say now like me and Timothy King, we just bust balls like nonstop. It's great. I mean, we message, we text every now and then, if I have something to share, it's really great. And, actually we're going to be table mates. I just found out at Books and Brews in August. So that's going to be a ton of fun.
I can't go. I'm so mad at you.
Hey.
Well, you and Tim, if I'm being honest, because
be more mad at him.
Right, more for him, of course. I'm going up.
Just real quick, just talking about toxicity within the horror scene. Did you hear about Spookella?
No.
Okay, so James, Spookella is a horror convention here in Florida. And there's also Spooky Empire that's been around a long time.
Yep.
Spooky Empire sued Spookella.
Oh shit!
To make them change their name because it said it was too close to theirs.
You can't trademark Spooky.
Right.
That's absurd.
I guess either they probably said, well, it's not worth our money to try and fight it. But like I've been going to Spooky Empire for a decade now. And I've met the owner a number of times. He always seems like a nice guy, but I mean, I guess it's getting very cutthroat.
Clearly,
the whole convention circuit. But I thought, and they're not even the same area either.
Right.
So it's very strange.
I mean, it's funny because my publishing company that I own is Horror House Publishing, and I remember when our buddy Kobe had the Horror House podcast, and I'm like, we joked about it. I'm like, I'm not gonna sue you or anything, or he's not gonna sue me. It's like whatever. There's plenty of horror houses out there,
Mm-hmm.
Well, funnily enough, I just started a horror home, and I'm suing you.
That's all right.
Yeah, I wouldn't count too much on that. Mark is too cheap to sue you.
Yeah, Mark, I don't think you're gonna sue me.
No.
You know what?
Hey, but I did want to we have a massive audience here, James. Obviously,
we do.
I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar worth podcast.
Hold on one second. Hello.
Is that the pizza?
That might be the pizza.
Oh, tell her to come in. Yeah. We'll say hello.
Come on in and say hi, Jess.
Come on, Jess.
She's not feeling the best right now. She ended up she just got back from she went camping for 3 days. Her school does a trip every year up in Blairstown, New Jersey, where the classic Friday the 13th was filmed.
Yep.
And not the reason they go there. They're a Quaker school. They don't necessarily go there for this mass slaughter, but they went there, and then but it was raining the entire time. And then the day she got back, we went to go see Metallica, Limp Bizkit, and Ice Nine Kills up in Philly. Oh wow! And Limp Bizkit's entire set rained on us, but it was cool. We had fun. We went with the kids. It was great. It was a lot of fun. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Oh no worries. And by the way, you must be doing very well, James, because those were awesome seats.
Oh yeah, they were great. It was still got that bank income coming in, which helps out. So.
Anyway, I want to kind of pull the curtain back because unfortunately, myself and Jim have to communicate, outside of the podcast. And earlier, James, I did ask, hey, do we have any topics that we want to, bring up? Maybe we want to ask James what he wants to talk about outside of your books. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe you can translate this.
Keep in mind. Hold on. Let me defend myself a little bit. I actually took a nap today, and when I got Mark's text message, I responded, and this was my response when I woke up.
So he said he has some of ears, like souvenirs, but with some at the start. He wants an enche. I don't know what that is. About period, based off what he has heard to Tom some period episodes. Period.
I have no idea what that means.
Now read the translation I sent you, Mark.
No, that's not the funny part. That was.
Hey, Karen, how are you? So anyway, where were we? Oh, let's talk about the Dead Children's Playground, right?
Okay.
So I messaged you when I started reading that book. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So, Mark, there's something very amazing in this. Well, I don't know about amazing, but it was quite. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It was a little intriguing to me because the main character, the family, moves from Rockledge, Florida, up to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, do you know why that's significant to me?
That's where you married your sister.
That's where I work.
Well, you can call it work if you want, but that's.
Yeah,
I missed you guys for the record. I missed you.
So yeah, that's where my office is. That's where I work, and I handle the things that I deal with on a daily basis. So it was quite interesting to me.
I think James is low key stalking you.
I might be.
I wouldn't complain. I mean, I like the guy. He's all right.
I
don't feel unsafe yet. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
I mean, my first question to you, James. So I know you work on a lot of stuff. You know, obviously, Dead Children's Playground. It's got like 2,000 plus reviews on Amazon. But how far along are you on your prequel trilogy that you're working on about that guy from Black Friday that unfortunately died in the car? I know you're writing like a Lord of the Rings type of.
It is. It's very epic. It's in the ideation stage. I don't want to, rush it along because I want to do the character justice and really kind of. Make sure I do it properly. I don't want this such an iconic.
He's a complex yet very intelligent and sympathetic character, and the movie rights will be just they'll probably throw you.
I'm sure. Such an iconic character. I got to handle it with care.
I personally learned everything I needed to when he hit the platform. I'm good.
He made the right choices with the information available. He was. Totally...
So anyway. And enough about Mark. Let's talk about something else. That's actually exciting, right? What, Mark?
Was that about me?
yeah, I think it was. So let's talk about the Dead Children's Playground. So this is part of an American Horror series that you're writing, correct?
Yes.
So explain the idea behind that to us.
Yeah, so with American Horrors, I was reading an article. I was just wasting time one day, and I read an article where it was the scariest urban legend from every state. And I'm like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a book series and each book just told a fictional story based on the legend? Like, I just don't want to just recount what happened. And in a lot of these cases, like even the Dead Children's Playground, it's just a lot of ghosts that people see, but there's no real like overarching story to it. There's a lot of history behind it. A lot of kids died during the Spanish flu. There were some rumblings about a serial killer, but there really wasn't a whole lot on that. It was kind of that was more of a legend about a legend. And so I just thought it'd be fun just to take it, but I really just want to take the bones of it and make it my own and my own spin on it. And that was the Dead Children's Playground was the one that stood out to me the most. Something about it, obviously being a father, that's something really scary and creepy. And, you don't want anything to happen to your kids. It's like one of the worst things you can possibly imagine. And, there were so many cool legends. I'm like, I would love to write stories based on these because like just urban legends and folklore and the way stories develop and are passed down over time is just very intriguing to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, there's also one more little piece of trivia about the book that I don't even think Mark's aware of. You had a very specific person you wanted to put this book in the hands of.
Oh yeah. So there's actually a cameo from David Howard Thornton in the book that plays Art the Clown.
Yeah.
And it's just basically the main character wears a Terrifier t-shirt because during my research, guys, hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to put this up here. I'm just going to block this camera for 1 second. I'm still here.
Okay.
Put your pants back on.
So Lori's saying that you're on a roll today, Mark.
What?
There we go.
Lori's saying you're on a roll today.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. It's not bad. I'm not happy about finishing it in a regular oven, but
hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Good sauce. We put some garlic and oregano in it, but
nice.
I'm not gonna eat the whole thing. Just want to take a bite.
Dude, you gotta eat. It's okay. Nobody's gonna hold that against you.
Me and Jim will just sit here and just like insult each other while you eat. It's fine.
No, we're good.
It's sort of what we do, right? So anyway, back to your story.
So as I was doing the research, I found that David Howard Thornton is a Huntsville native where the Dead Children's Playground takes place. So, I did want to mention that in the book, and I did want to find a way. Obviously, it's hard to work, Art the Clown into a story about ghosts of children haunting a playground,
Right.
Especially because it's not an overly gory book or anything like that. And so I just figured the one character wore a Terrifier T-shirt to torment her little sister, and and then I put in the afterword how David was from Huntsville, and I think we got a copy in his hands. Haven't heard from him, but hopefully he'll get to read it someday.
He absolutely got your package. That I can guarantee.
I know, and I appreciate that. So we'll see. But I know he's a busy guy, and
he is.
We'll see.
And he's extremely receptive, right? Like I've messaged him on Blue Sky, and he's always been extremely receptive. He's probably one of the nicest celebrities I've ever met.
That's what I've heard about him. That seems to be the going thing, which is great because fans, creative people, actors, writers, directors, whoever create, fans make them.
Yeah.
And I always say I had this interesting exchange. Recently, I says, there is a point where fans do have a little bit of ownership. It's kind of like a company going public. They might not be the majority shareholder, but they do own stock in it. So you do have to please your shareholders at some point.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah. But anyway, back to the story. So tell us what about this particular legend from Huntsville inspired you to write the book?
It's hard to pinpoint. It's just very much, the title stood out to me. It's so funny because when I sent it to my editor, he even said when he sent it back, he's like, you may want to consider changing this traumatizing title. And I'm like, no, it's an actual real place. And honestly, the title is the most striking thing about it.
I'd have to say the epilogue is the most striking thing about it personally.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the epilogue. Yeah. So if most people that read it end up a little bit mad at me, but in a I get it, but I still hate you kind of way.
Yeah, I think I sent you a similar message after I finished the book.
You did, and it's one of many I've gotten. It's like, you broke my heart, you ripped my heart out, you stomped on it, and I'm like, well,
I didn't necessarily feel like you ripped my heart out or it got stomped on, but I was like and I don't know why, right? Because the sisters in the book go through so much together, that you really, and you do this in all your books, and I don't know how you do it, but you make your characters actually extremely relatable and people you actually want to cheer for. And I don't get that a lot, especially in like movies and stuff. No, Mark, yeah. I just cheered when you exploded.
That wasn't in the Dead Children's Playground, but it was Black Friday. So.
That was Black Friday. But that aside, like I don't want to ruin the book, but I was really hopeful at the end of the book until I listened to the fucking epilogue, and then I was like, oh,
yeah. Oh. It's funny. The last line of the book was the first thing I wrote.
Yep.
I just jutted it down on a piece of paper, and I'm like, and it broke my damn heart, man. It was just like, oh man, am I really going to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I got it, because I got to be true to the story I wanted to tell. And
that sort of trauma just happens in real life, right? You can't always control it. So it was very realistic. It wasn't what we wanted.
Yeah, well, it's funny, and I've posted about this, so it's no secret, and I'll share it with you guys and your listeners. You can hear from me direct. This was based on her, Kylie, and everything she went through was basically based on a real situation we had with my son. Mm-hmm. He was born with a syndrome called Beckwith-Weidman syndrome, where it's basically one side of your body is larger than the other. I mean, now you can never tell really necessarily unless you're looking at them super, super, super close, like almost under a microscope. But it's an enlargement, and that's not the problem. The problem is, due to the enlargement, it puts him at a greater risk of kidney and liver tumors during childhood. Wilms tumor is the kidney tumor, and liver tumors. So there's a protocol you have to go through where you go to. We had to go to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. You had an hour drive. We had to go every 3 months from the time he was 6 months old till he was 8, because after 8, the risk levels out to like normal children. And we had to do ultrasounds and blood work. The blood work to check for his liver, and the ultrasounds for his kidney. And he was clear for everything. And then it was actually really, and I didn't share this till like really recently, but the week we published, I published the Dead Children's Playground. my wife found like a little tiny bald spot on his head, like minuscule, but it was just really small. So we went to the actually his barber said it might be alopecia. So we went to a dermatologist, they ordered blood work, and we found an elevated hormone. Okay. Went back for blood work a week later, the hormone was even higher. It's like a puberty hormone specifically for men and if or boys. If he was 14, it would have been normal. Because he's 13, it was really out of whack. Go for an ultrasound, that comes back clear. I think we're okay. Next day, we get a call from the doctor saying no, we couldn't see his adrenal gland because that's where the hormone comes from. So they had to see it. Go for a CT scan a week later. Doctor calls us the same day, says there's a mass on his adrenal gland. And obviously at that point we freaked out. And this is like back in September. And we had an appointment with an endocrinologist. In the meantime, James, my son, he's an actor. He was filming a movie in New York. We're doing all this. We're going through all this. We're worried and whatever. We're trying to keep it, light for him and try, because we can only get the appointment when we can get the appointment. Go to the endocrinologist. She says, look, it's really small. We're going to do a whole bunch of adrenal blood work. Does that. Luckily, that all came back fine. The hormone actually went down. It was still elevated, but it was down. And then they said we have to get a MRI. And James also has Tourette's syndrome, which makes it hard. So we had to actually sedate him for the MRI. And we go through all that. And then it turns out that's not on his adrenal gland. It's on his kidney, and it's a cyst. It's not a tumor. It's not anything else. But that means he's at risk for polycystic kidney disease. Then we go through genetic testing. And finally, I think it was like 3-4 weeks ago now, we get a call that says, no, he's in the clear. He does not markers. But 8 months since that book had been released and dealing with those types of because Kylie had kidney cancer in it and she had recovered. And that's when the events happened. And I kind of based it off of that. And I'm feeling in the meantime so guilty. Like, my God, I like conjured this. And it was just 8 months of absolute hell that we were going through. And luckily, he's got a clean bill of health now. He's got this little cyst. We got to monitor it. We got another follow-up ultrasound. It's still really, really tiny. And hopefully we're in a thing. But, it's like I put this real life experience in there. And I think that kind of helps the characters. But at the same time, it's like, it's very scary when you have kids and you have to deal with that.
Yeah. And it's such great news that it's all clear for right now. But I wonder how often that happens to particularly like horror writers.
Yeah,
I write about something and then somebody they know or a friend, family, something happens to them.
Yeah,
Mark, holy shit! Like,
hey, Mark,
I feel guilt about it. Yes.
Are you afraid you're going to die in a fiery car crash now?
I always fear. I live in Florida, Jim. That's a daily fear.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
This is my welcome to Florida shirt.
Nice.
Yeah. People are fucking nuts over here.
Mark, did you read The Dead Children's Playground?
I did not.
You should. It's
Mark's holding out for the movie.
You know what? I still I bought like the Audible the most recent Pendergast one, which is about 2 years ago. Yep. I still haven't listened to it. I've become so like ADHD. It's like crazy. I don't know what's wrong with me.
No, I understand that. Trust me.
It's like I don't know. But hey, James, I was looking on some of the reviews on Amazon for the Dead Children's Playground, and I don't know if you read this one, but somebody was saying that they got married in Maple Hill Cemetery.
I did see that one, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, is that crazy?
It is. It's like, and I will say that I've been very blessed to get very few negative reviews of the book. The ones that I think have been particularly harsh have been people from the area that have been kind of upset. Like one person's like, "It's our legend. How dare you?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm the kind of guy I dare. That's what I do. But then, there are people like, "Oh, there's no Huntsville Community College." I'm like, I know, because I didn't want to use the name of real schools when children are dying. It's right. Not, and real businesses. I would prefer not to get sued at some point. And I don't know if that's, everything's in a work of fiction. Like the one I'm writing now is in New Jersey where I live, and I'm changing all kinds of stuff. And
I can't wait.
That's a bit of a weird criticism, really, because it is fiction. Yeah.
everybody has ownership over things. Like I think that's one thing too. Like there's this feeling of ownership, especially when it comes to like, and I get it in a way. I mean, the amount of Jersey Devil fiction that's out there, none of it has been great
Yep.
that I've seen. And it's like but I'm like, hey, you know what? You tried, you took it, you made it your own, and that's kind of what I'm doing. And I even updated the book with a little bit of a foreword saying, listen, I took some creative liberties. This is the way it goes. I wasn't going to use the name of real schools because, like, when you're dealing with children in perilous situations, it's not appropriate at all. And I just, and it's like, some people are like, well, you're not from Huntsville, you can't write. I'm like, well, I'm not from a lot of places. I can't,
Right.
but,
Yeah, and I can understand changing the name. Like, I can understand the criticism if I wrote a book. I'm talking about, climbing the largest mountain in Florida because you don't have any mountains, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But
right.
to change the name of a place or a school or whatever, it's a work of fiction. That seems very petty.
Yeah, I don't put too much
It is what
stock
it
in
is.
it. Yeah,
Hey,
I
James,
kind of,
Colby just screamed your name in the live, just so you know.
what's that?
Colby just screamed your name in the live. Just
Nice.
saying.
What's up, Kobe?
But anyway, so tell us about the next project, because I'm excited about that, because I haven't read too many books about the Pine Barrens that are actually any good.
Yeah, it's I will say this right now. I've been working nonstop on it, as is my habit with my own ADHD. End up being very much behind on deadlines, and I can only really finish stuff when I'm coming up to the wire. And I really do have to get it to the editor in the next like week to 10 days, or it's going to be delayed a little bit. Still this year, but delayed. And it is. I will say this right now. I can tell you it's not done yet, but it is going to be it's like my favorite book I've written, and it might be the best as well. And it might not even might be. I'm going to say it's my favorite book that I've written, and it is also going to be the best book I've written as far as I'm concerned.
That's going to be rough because I've read all of your books.
So again, my question, James, is I always ask an author,
Uh-huh.
who have you picked out in your head to be the actors to play your leads?
Yeah, it's funny. I do this kind of like for fun on Facebook all the times. Who was going to play people in there, and I can't remember who I cast as you guys, but I had good actors for you guys.
You did, and I've seen the posts, but I can't recall them off the top of my head.
Yeah, for some reason I think I had Mark Wahlberg as Mark, and Jim. I had someone really good as you, and it is escaping me at the moment. It's going to come to me at a random time.
It will. 3:00 in the morning, I'll get a Facebook message from you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I honestly I think the person I'm picturing kind of as the lead in this one would be like a Glenn Powell type.
Okay.
He's kind of like he's got kind of like a mix between Pretty Boy Rugged type thing. I don't really think too much because actually three of the important characters are based on actual real life friends of mine. Probably my three best friends from college. In fact, the book's gonna be dedicated to them, and only one of them's let me use his real name in it. But I'm using these three guys, and they're gonna have major parts in it. But it is legitimately, I personally think it's pretty epic. It takes place over 3 centuries. The bulk of it takes place in present day, and then there's a large part that takes place in the 1700s, and then there's another part that takes place in like the mid 2000s. And I think the one thing that I've always not liked about fiction about the Jersey Devil is that I hate when it comes out that it's not really the Jersey Devil. It's the humans are the real monster. And, so I actually went back and watched a few movies, and, I try to be positive. It doesn't always work, but there's a movie called The 13th Child that came out back in 2002, and it stars Cliff Robertson, Uncle Ben from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. He doesn't star; he's got a supporting role, and Leslie Ann Down, and then there's the guy from the Blue Lagoon, the original with Brooke Shields, the dude.
Chris, what's his name?
Chris. I don't remember his last name, and and it's just the effects are a bit. I mean, but it's super super low budget. The effects are abysmal. The dialogue's atrocious. Like I remember I hadn't seen this movie since like 2002 or 2004, whenever it came out. And the worst line it is, Chris, the guy from the Blue Lagoon, comes out. I was like, oh yeah, they call me Eminem where I come from. And this other little blonde lady, she's like, oh, that's funny. They call me Little Kim. I'm like, holy shit, who wrote this? The worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And the Jersey Devil, they changed the lore around. Like, it's not the mother leads his 13th child. It's something to do with the Lenape Indians who were native to this area in Jersey, and Cliff Robertson is like the Jersey Devil's keeper, kind of like the Man in Black in the terrible Halloween sequels.
Right.
And he calls him Bruno. He's like, have you seen my friend Bruno? I'm like, Jesus, I know there's a lot of Italians here in Jersey. Like, I'm one of them, but come on, do we need to really call Jersey Devil Bruno? We can call him Giacomo or something like that. But yeah, so I watched that one, and I watched The Barons, which is Darren Lynn Bousman, who did some of the Saw movies, and I think The Collector, and Stephen Moyer from True Blood, and Mia Kirshner are in that one. And that's a little bit of an interesting one. They go camping in the Pine Barrens. That's about as close to, I think, doing a real version of the legend that we get. And I thought that one was actually another one of the monsters, really the people. But I actually do think the Jersey Devil showed up for real at the end. It's a little confusing. And then there was an X-Files episode where it was just a man in a basement or something. And I'm like, nobody ever actually does the Jersey Devil is the monster and the threat. And in my book, the Jersey Devil is very much a killer creature threat.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Mark.
The last broadcast, right? That's
yes, that one. But I think that's another one where it's like they were going out, but it ended up being a serial killer.
I'm just trying to think, Jane. Is there any like mythical Floridian crypto beasts other than
the swamp ape?
Swamp ass?
Swamp ape.
No, swamp ass.
I mean, that's a real thing. Nobody can argue that.
I've been to Disney a bunch of times. I'm not arguing that either.
So
the swamp ape is the Florida version of Bigfoot.
Okay.
But
I gotta find a good one when I get down to Florida for this. But
yeah, I don't know of any others besides the swamp ape.
Apart from natural born Floridians.
Right. Meth is the monster from Florida.
My biggest thing is if I'm going to do these, especially like Jersey, I can get a little dirtier because I'm from here. But if I'm doing a book about a different state, I'm definitely trying to be respectful of its residents.
Oh, you don't need to be respectful.
Rip Florida apart as much as you can because it deserves it.
Hey, we have people eating people's faces because they're on bath salts here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you don't have to like spare us. Well.
But anyway. So other than keeping the lore more consistent or more true to form, what are some of the other goals you have for this book?
Well, the main thing is it's funny because it's hard because like the Jersey Devil is a legend where a woman has 12 children and her 13th pregnancy is very, very difficult and painful, and she curses it that it'll be a devil, and there's different variations. Sometimes it's born human and it changes. Sometimes it comes out a devil. Sometimes she raises it. Sometimes it kills everybody in the room. So there's all kinds of different ways. Sorry, I got the hiccups for a second. So there's all kinds of different ways that the legend goes, but the one thing is like there's never any talk of it actually attacking anybody. And that's hard to do a horror story where there's no threat. And I really, really don't want to do, okay, it's a human. And I promise I'm not doing that. It's from the first 2 chapters, the Jersey Devil is very active and very violent.
That's awesome.
Yes. And
I have to bring up a story that I just heard because Lori mentioned something, but finish your thought, James.
Yeah, no, with this one, I want it to be this, it's about, trauma. It's about the ghosts of the past. It's about, finding your home. And it's just it's funny because it's taken so long because every single chapter I write, if I'm thinking it's going to be, 1,000, 1,200 words, then it ends up being 3,000 because I just get these ideas and it just keeps rolling. And I've never written a book like this where like a lot of times I'm a person that, like, when I'm working, like, I got to force myself to work no matter how much I love the idea. Like, believe it or not, the Dead Children's Playground, every minute I was actually writing it. I hated it. I thought it was the worst story I've ever written. And then I went back and I'm like, it's not that bad. It's pretty good. And then, it blew up. So what the hell do I know? So maybe this one that I love is going to be a complete failure. Who knows?
You had the same feelings about My Pet Werewolf too, didn't you?
Yes, but not to that extent. For My Pet Werewolf, I was more afraid that I was kind of, the action scenes were maybe a little too cheesy or corny, and again, it's just that critical eye when when I'm working. It's like it's the same thing when I'm cooking. I'm
Right.
making stuff. I'm like, this is never going to turn out right, and it's like, okay, this is actually good.
So Lori just mentioned something that I just saw a story about today. In Connecticut, the Warrens had their occult museum, right, where they would house all of their cursed objects.
Yes.
And a certain object is making a world tour right now.
Okay, I think I've heard this.
And it's gone missing.
Yeah, that's a legitimate story, because I saw it popping up, but like I got to see it at least 5 or 6 times from reputable news sources before I believe anything.
That's fair. I still don't know how if I believe it or not, because I've only seen a few messages. But Mark, Annabelle is on the loose.
Fuck the Warrens. Bunch of fucking con artists.
That's fair. That's fair. So anyway, you shared something on Facebook today that made me super excited. Was it? I think it was today, or at least I saw the post today. It was a cover reveal.
Did I do the cover reveal, or did I message you that privately?
Both, because I saw one on your Facebook. I haven't talked about it, the private post yet.
Okay, what cover?
Swear to God, I saw it on Facebook today.
I didn't reveal the sequel one.
Then never mind. We'll skip it.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just remember the sentence that Jim sent me via text.
Shut up, you.
That context.
Yeah. No, I will say yes, but yeah, that will be my next project. Yeah, I had to share it with a few people because I do need the dopamine hit when I get a new cover. So I think the only one that saw it outside my wife were you, Jim, and Tim.
And I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I will say this: so it'll be the sequel to My Pet Werewolf. I'm not revealing the title yet because the title is kind of a spoiler. So I'm giving people a little bit of time left to read it. But I do have a special edition of My Pet Werewolf coming out August 8th. It will be actually available for the first time. If anybody's attending Books and Brews, they'll get first crack at it. There's only going to be 125 copies printed, signed and numbered, and it's completely reformatted. A new cover by Wendy Sabercore. It's a beautiful cover. That one's been shared, and I'm bringing, I think, 50 to Books and Brews, but there will be opportunities for others to get it. I don't want to sell them all out there, but I do want to have something special for people that can attend.
That's awesome.
It's going to have, so this book is going to be, I think it's going to be in 488 pages. It's My Pet Werewolf, Gunther, and the first chapter of the sequel, all in one volume. And signed and numbered, reformatted. I completely redid the interior formatting using InDesign, which is Adobe, which is kind of like the premier software for that. All the major publishing houses use it, from my understanding. And so the cover for the sequel will be in it. So people that buy that special edition will be the first to see it, outside of Jim, my wife, and Timothy King.
That's awesome. So Lori has a question.
Hang on, Jim. Can I have a guess about the name for the sequel?
Sure.
Is it My Pet Werewolves?
No, it is not. It is not.
So Lori has a question about.
I will say. Wait, hold on, real quick. I will say this: if there's a third book, that's the title of the third book. Believe it or not.
Oh.
I will give that exclusive to your listeners. It's going to be interesting, because, and then I do have another idea for how to continue the series outside of the initial 3 books, but it's going to be kind of like an aliens type of thing, where I think if I do a second trilogy, it's going to dive a little more into action and outside of horror, but action horror kind of. But we'll see if we get there. We gotta sell these next couple ones first.
Sure. So Lori wants to know what the difference between My Pet Werewolf and Gunther, My Pet Werewolf is. So Lori, Gunther is actually the prequel to My Pet Werewolf.
Right.
and it's actually a lot more splatterpunk oriented almost, or maybe extreme. I don't know what. I've never been good at defining those two, so I have trouble with the difference.
I will say this. If you ever need to know the difference between extreme horror and splatterpunk, Judith Sonnet explains it the best. She loves. She always, if anyone ever posts in books of horror, she's the first one to jump in, and she has the best explanation for it.
That's
It's
awesome.
extreme horror. They both have the same level of violence and graphic violence and nasty, gross stuff, but extreme horror is kind of gross for the sake of being gross. Like,
Okay.
I think I just read I think Playground, Aaron Bjorgaard's Playground.
Me too.
And I would think that would be like kind of like the quintessential example of extreme horror.
Yeah.
Whereas a book like, and I wouldn't say I'm on his level, but a book like Black Friday, I consider splatterpunk. Splatterpunk is gross, but it has kind of a message. It has kind of a commentary on something, you know, like for me, for Black Friday, that was very much a knock on internet culture and celebrity worship and YouTubers and how these people think they're so much better than other people. And actually the main character Vortex is based on a, kind of got the idea from somebody that's a real YouTuber. It's not Mr. Beast. Everybody says it's not Mr. Beast. I got no beef with Mr. Beast. As far as I don't even know much about him. But there's another guy out there. He's like just this giant asshole that goes around and he'll like walk around and bump into people in the mall, and they'll have the big security guards behind them just when they get pissed off. Like there's people that think they could just mess with and ruin other people's day just for clicks and likes.
Fair enough.
So yeah, so
was that the guy that did that to like an MMA fighter? And then
it might be. I'm not naming names. All I will say, his original name in the book was too close to the real guy. But again, I don't want to get sued. So, but it's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different people. Like, and I absolutely despise people that think because they have a platform and they got money and they got views that they think that they can make other normal people, or you guys are just working hard and just trying to make a living and that they can exploit them. And I think there is a lot of that. So basically extreme horror is gross for the sake of being gross.
Right.
Splatterpunk, you got to think like the punk. It's got the Rage Against the Machine, the stick it to the man type of attitude. And that's the difference. I wouldn't consider Gunther either of those. I think most of my stuff, I consider Black Friday splatterpunk, but everything else, my gorier books, Pursuit, My Pet Werewolf, Gunther, even upcoming Mischief Night, those are all just the upper level of what normal horror, like general horror. Like I wouldn't consider it would cross that line yet. And there's some questions. Like I push it.
Gunther almost gets there, in my opinion. Gunther almost gets there, but that's the part that I really enjoyed about it, is because even though it goes to some pretty dark places, it's all relevant to the story. It's not just thrown in there just to be gross or upsetting or any of that. Yeah. There's a purpose for everything that happens in that book, and that's why I appreciate it.
So James, when you're like writing a book, do you like consciously before it think I'm going to raise it to this level, or does it just kind of evolve as you're writing it?
Not necessarily. I always knew Black Friday was going to be my conscious attempt at splatterpunk. Mm-hmm. That was what I wanted. I like, growing up, and I was already growing. I was in my 20s when I discovered like Richard Lehman and Jack Ketchum and reading those types of books. Like I really like kind of wanted to try my hand at that type of a story. That's why it's funny. If you're a splatterpunk fan, there are constant references, Dean Lehman, the Law Office of Skip Inspector. I really put all these references in there. But everything else, I just kind of like, I'm just going to kind of do what I do. And it's going to do what the whatever genre I'm writing in calls for, like Pursuit's obviously a slasher novel, so it's very gory. My Pet Werewolf's a creature feature, so and a lot of those that was a big influence by Silver Bullet and Bad Moon, so you got that kind of coming of age aspect. And then Gunther, once I had My Pet Werewolf, then kind of that vibe dictated what Gunther was. And then with Dead Children's Playground with Ghosts, you're not going to write a really gory story. It's not going to be, I can't think of very many splatterpunk or extreme ghost stories. I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure there's some that have been done very well, but that wasn't that type of story. And then like Mischief Night, coming out. That's a retro 1970s style slasher. So that's where, that level of horror is going to come in.
I'm so excited. I don't think you understand my appreciation for the slasher genre. I love slasher books because no matter if I'm rooting for the main characters or the villain, I get so invested in those chase scenes. Like it gets me going.
Well, then you're gonna love Mischief Night. It's a novella, so it's on the shorter side. It's like literally the upper echelon of a novella. I think the limit is 40,000 words. It's like 39,800 words.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So I have a question, and both of you would know better than me. Has there ever been like an author that releases like a PG version of a book and an R-rated version of a book?
Not that I know of.
Not that I can think of.
There you go. I've cornered the market for you.
It's funny. I know there's a big thing in like comic books. Like there's a company that does a lot, or I don't know if they're still around, but they did a lot of horror comics and a lot of what would be considered extreme horror comics called Avatar Press. And their biggest one that they're known for is called Crossed. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Right.
Like they're saying they get these like rash across their face in the shape of a cross, and they do the most vile, sadistic acts. But Avatar was very big on, they would release like a standard cover, then they'd release like a sexy cover, then they'd release a gore cover, and they'd be behind like black bags, and you'd have to, you couldn't see it.
Covers.
Yeah. So that, I think that's as close to that as it's gotten. I think to take a book and have to do two different versions would be a lot that goes into that, because it's funny because that's kind of what I did with Mischief Night, because that started out as it was almost like a fan fiction thing for my newsletter. I was giving it away for free. I was writing a chapter a month, and it was just like a fan fiction thing. And the concept behind it is it's the night Michael Myers escapes from Smith's Grove. How he breaks out and lets all the patients on the lawn or the yard. What happened to those other patients? So the original version that I wrote had like references to the Myers house, the guy, one of the characters, the Haddonfield sheriff's officer. They reference Sheriff Brackett and Deputy Hunt, and it's Michael Myers that broke him out. And but then it goes on to, there's only these little things in there, and it was just fun to write. But then I'm like, I got something here that I could release, so I went back in, I changed it from 1978 to 1979. Took out all references to Michael Myers and Brackett and all that stuff, and so that in and of itself was hard enough. So I can't imagine how like doing a PG version of something you already done, and I don't know if there'd be a big market for that either, because it's already a little dicey when it comes to like what's a YA book and what's a standard book, and in fact it gets a little bit. I would say I don't want to say it, but I do want to say it gets annoying at times.
So the only sort of analogous thing I can think of, it's not really, it's the Harry Potter books, right? Because they were written to kind of reflect the age of, hey, if the kid read the first Harry Potter book at whatever age they were supposed to, and then as they get older, I wonder if you could do that, but have like extreme horror buildup
there could be something to that. I know C. Commissar has got a series called Raised by a Killer, and each book deals with the character at a different age, although it starts from age 4 and it goes to 21, although I don't think there's many 4-year-olds are going to be reading extreme horror. Look, I let my kids watch some messed up stuff, but even I have my limits.
Fair enough. So we do have a few questions. So the first one, Lori asked if I've read the Indian Lake trilogy. I have not, Lori. I don't think I have. I read Stephen Graham Jones' My Heart is a Chainsaw, but I don't think that's part of the trilogy. But anyway, no, I have not. But then Kale Alistair has a question for you, James. Would you ever write romantasy?
It's so funny. I joked about this. I said, horror is a small genre, and we don't always have that big of a piece of the publishing pie. And I joke around all the time. I tell my wife, I'm like, you're just gonna start coming up with ideas, and we're gonna write some dark romance stuff. And I'll help you write it. You just come with the ideas. I'll write it. I'll do the writing, and we'll put your face on it, and we'll sell it. We'll be honest. We'll say it's a husband and wife writing team, but you'll be the face of it because her face is much better than mine. And
I disagree. I think you're a very, very beautiful couple.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I think about it, but it would be but if I ever did something like that, it would be a purely profit driven decision and not a passion driven. Because like everybody's like, oh, why don't you write something outside of horror? I'm like, I don't know. I just this is what I like. I mean, I like what I'm written.
That's fair enough. His second question is, what top 3 movies did you pull your initial and constant inspiration from?
Oh man, movies that I pulled inspiration from. That's a great.
Well, we know Mischief Night was Halloween, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely Halloween. I mean, if we're talking about specific books, or if we're talking about,
I think he's talking in general. Like, what? I guess maybe what sort of source material do you keep going back to pull inspiration from?
I think for me, I think like I said, Halloween is my go-to for how to create suspense.
Agreed.
How to create that atmosphere of dread. Because I think, you obviously can't do jump scares in a book too well. I mean, I know there's been 1 or 2 places where it's successful. And I think I've done a couple scenes that are kind of successful, but it obviously that's a visual thing. But as far as creating an atmosphere of dread, Halloween is definitely one of them. I think I actually go to Star Wars a lot because that's I think one of the best examples of the hero's journey.
Yep.
And I do, and you can apply that across genres, and that's definitely, and that's, I'm a huge Star Wars fan before 2012, and we can talk about that another time. And I'm trying to think, I'll see another one. There's so many, and then I don't know if there's a general one, but I like a movie specifically, but I think there's definitely writers that have influenced me, and I love Tarantino. Like I watch a lot of his videos. They come up in my algorithm now. I've watched so many, and he's got such great insights on why movie theaters are dying, and but also being authentic and being true and honest as a writer, and why that's so important, and being true to yourself. And believe it or not, Trey Parker from South Park, he had one of the best things I've ever heard about writing. And he says, when you're writing a story and you're putting scenes together, it should never be this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. It should be this happened, or this happened, therefore. Like you can't just have a series of events and put it together and expect it. Like everything has to go off of each other. And that was one of the most, and you figure, you don't see South Park for the brilliant show it is all the time, but the way they can just create storylines out of the most absurd things, and that the storytelling techniques themselves are so thoughtful and well put together is pretty amazing.
It's not only that, it's that they have to write it and do it within like a week.
Yeah, and that's what I do too, because if I'm not making myself crazy and giving myself an ulcer and worrying that I'm not going to make it and basically isolating myself from the world like I'm doing this week, it's like you guys are like the only people seeing me this week. It's pretty.
That's
cool.
why you drink. That's why you drink so much apple juice, right?
That's right. That's why I'm drinking that apple juice.
So doing a jump scare in a book, right? So I have another idea. So you write something to the end of a page and then leave 2 pages blank, and then.
I think that would just piss people off.
I agree.
I think I do have a pretty effective. It's funny. I wouldn't say it's a jump scare because it's hard to explain without it. And if you guys remember it, you come back to me after it's released. But in Mischief Night, I think there's a good scene, a great scene in my opinion, where you're expecting one thing and then something else happens. And I think that's where a jump scare comes in a book, because it's never gonna be like, oh my God, but it's like, holy shit, I wasn't expecting that. And there have been times like I've been driving my car, listening to an audiobook, and then something happens. I'm like, holy shit, really? Or a lot of times, like, when I was listening to Playground, I'm like, I can't believe you just said that. Ugh.
So, okay. Let's address the chat first, because there's a few things in here, but then we'll talk about Playground and my first Judith Sonnet experience.
Okay.
Kale Alistair said, killer answers, thank you. And Lori wants to know, were your werewolf books based on any movies? And I know you mentioned Cycle of the Werewolf. Is there any other, Silver Bullet?
They weren't based on a particular movies per se. I got the idea while I was watching Bad Moon. And Bad Moon is one of the, like, I know it got savaged by critics. I really, really like that movie. It's not perfect by any means. And the CGI, oh my God, the CGI just mud on. But overall, like, so I got the idea. I'm watching it, and I knew I wanted to do a werewolf book. Like, I love werewolves ever since. I actually wrote an introduction into My Pet Werewolf Special Edition about how my love of werewolves started in 1987, and that was a combination of the Monster Squad and the Fox. The first season Fox was on the air. They had the show Werewolf, which is basically the Incredible Hulk werewolf. And that show, I will say, I've seen it on YouTube. It still holds up. It's the effects are great. The acting's not bad for the time.
Yep.
And no, it's really great. So I knew I just always loved werewolves. I was a werewolf for Halloween, I think, that year. And I remember actually specifically trying to get the glue off my face with the fur. It was nightmare. I still vividly remember. We're talking 38 years ago,
right?
But I always knew I wanted to, and so but there's so few classic great werewolf movies out there. That's why they've actually gotten hijacked and appropriated by romance. So I'm watching Bad Moon because it's one of my comfort movies. It's one of the ones I'm just like, I'm bored. I'm about to fall asleep. I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna put something on, and I'm watching it. And then the scene where Thor, because it's actually based on the book Thor by Brad Smith, I think. And the whole book is actually told from the perspective of the dog. And Thor goes into the woods and finds the werewolf chained in the woods. And I'm like, oh shit, what if a person found it? And then they could keep him chained up. And that's where the whole idea kind of came from.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then, so that was it. And then as I'm writing it, I didn't necessarily realize how much Silver Bullet influence I had on it. Because Silver Bullet is my favorite werewolf movie of all time, And,
fair enough.
Because I love, kids versus monsters, growing up, that was like, that's my trope. I actually have an idea I'm probably going to get to one day. I just have the bones of it. I haven't been able to flesh it out, but you get kids versus monsters, you got me. And, but I didn't realize, like, naming the main character Brady, I forgot that, Marty's best friend is named Brady. And I didn't even think about it. Like, so it's kind of unconscious. And I'm always trying very hard. Like, if I'm like, oh crap, this sounds too much like this movie or too much like this book. Like, I try to be very aware of that when I'm writing, because the last thing I want to ever be seen as is somebody that rips people off,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I would definitely say that those two movies, Bad Moon and Silver Bullet, were like kind of the biggest influence. But I also just wanted to kind of just carve my own path out, and it's and that's again like the younger people and making it that kind of genre, which sometimes it actually gets accused of being YA, which is crazy to me. But so I guess those two are the.
So for both of you, what do you think is either the scariest or your favorite representation of a werewolf in a movie?
I have two. Go ahead, James.
No, Jim, you go for it. I'm gonna take a bite of pizza.
I think if we're going for straight horror, it would probably be Dog Soldiers or The Howling.
Mm-hmm.
Those two are probably both my favorites as far as werewolves go. But the one that I love and that I will consistently watch over and over every chance I get is Big Bad Wolf from 2006.
It's funny, Jim. I've been looking for that. I have a DVD downstairs, but they're all packed up. And I've been looking for it on streaming, and I haven't been able to find it because I haven't seen that movie since 2006.
The last time I saw it, it was still on Tubi. I don't know if it is anymore.
It's not. I looked.
Okay.
Is that the one where the werewolf talks and it's kind of sassy?
Yeah, he's got like werewolf dick swinging, and it's just great. It's so funny. It was the first time anybody saw Kimberly J. Brown not in Halloween Town.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry. And what was again? What's the scariest and the what? What was
either the scariest or you think the best representation of what you think a werewolf should be in a movie?
Okay. All right. So this is I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I definitely think the scariest, probably the Howling. Silver Bullet I find very scary because the thing that scares me about Silver Bullet is the idea that the monster is coming for you and you can't do anything about it. That to me is very scary to know
Mhm.
it's coming and know you have to face it. It's like it's with anything. Anticipation is almost scarier than being in the situation
Right.
itself. Um so that's it. But there's something really almost dirty and visceral about the Howling, and the way that he corners her after she thought he was dead, and that the transformation. I will put it side by side. I don't know if it's better than American Werewolf. I don't know if it's scarier than American
Wait,
Werewolf.
which transformation are we talking about? We're not talking about Dee Wallace at the end of the movie, right?
No, not the poodle. I'm
Okay,
talking
good. Thank
about
God.
no. I'm
'Cause
talking about what's his name, the guy that got shot in the
Yeah.
beginning and comes
Yeah,
back.
I recently rewatched The Howling, and I remember ugly crying the first time I saw it when Dee Wallace transforms on the newscast.
Yeah,
And then I rewatched it, and she looks like a goddamn Pekingese. So
yeah.
it's hysterical.
Yeah, no, I think the killer was grimier. He was
Yeah.
more he wasn't just a killer, he was a pervert. He
Yep.
was so there's just definitely that dirtier, nastier aspect to him. And
Yep.
that's why I think it's scarier too, because he's transforming in front of the woman. Whereas like a werewolf, American Werewolf, as much as those effects are great,
Yep.
there isn't a comedic tone to the movie throughout, whereas the Howling's very nihilistic. And when David transforms in American Werewolf, it's just him.
Right.
Whereas this is happening in front of this person. You could feel her fear. And not only that, it's somebody you think he's dead. So he like goes from like killer to zombie to werewolf.
Right.
So, and even though like, it's funny, The Howling is not particularly my favorite movie. I
Mhm.
actually think it drags a lot in the middle.
It does.
I think but once it picks up and where it excels, it really, really excels.
The
Yeah.
Howling to me very much feels more like a 70s sleazy,
Like a giallo.
New York type of, very
Yes,
gritty,
exactly. Yeah.
sleazy type of movie compared to American Werewolf. For me,
Right.
I go in between like quadrupedal. I think like the American Werewolf in London, when it's out there, especially when it attacks him at the start, is absolutely terrifying because it's just this beast, right?
Right.
But I think whenever you're talking about like on 2 feet, I really like Dog Soldiers because they're just
Yeah.
towering and
Yes.
really, really like scary.
I love I said I will definitely say Howling is probably the scariest. I absolutely love Dog Soldiers. I love the design. I think the design is one thing that gets lacking a lot. I just finished watching Late Phases, which is
Yep.
a great movie. The
Yep.
worst werewolf designs
Yep.
I've ever seen. I don't even know what the hell they were smoking when they made these werewolves. But for me, I think the best representation of a werewolf, what I personally see as a werewolf story, was probably Silver Bullet Cycle of the Werewolf, because
Mhm.
I just love that small town horror, and it's the mystery aspect of it. And that's why who is it, Everett McGill that plays the wolf in it. That's why I named the one stepdad, and his name's Dennis McGill. So there's actually a Detective Wallace. There's a ton of references in there to different movies.
I'll also throw out the small sequence in Waxwork with the werewolf,
Yeah.
which I thought was super effective in a movie just full of effects and different monsters.
Right. And
So, go ahead.
right now, I was going to think, and I think Monster Squad did it very well. I thought, even though there's a distinct difference between werewolf and wolfman, and that's more wolfman. But I think just the way he didn't want to be that, but when he was when he was a human, he just I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. But then when he's a wolf, he's full wolf.
Yep.
And then when he dies, like thank you, that hell, that might be the best representation of a werewolf or wolfman.
So Lori said that Good Dogs is a new book out that had an interesting take on werewolves as a pack, and with another alpha creature as the apex predator.
Is that Brian Asman's book?
I don't know, but
I
I was
think
going to
that
give her
might be
two other
it.
recommendations. There is the Ravenwood trilogy, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the author. It's sort of a softcore romance werewolf book, but the way that they I want to say TJ Klune, but I know I'm probably wrong. I need to look this up now because it has some of the best LGBTQ relationship
Mm.
um, depictions, because we all know that I absolutely hate people being gay just for the point of being gay, right?
Mhm.
It is TJ Klune. Okay, that explains it
Okay.
because he writes the best relationships. But it's a great trilogy because it's all about the interpersonal relationships in the pack and not just about them being monsters or being beasts. And it actually explains the difference between bipedal werewolves and werewolves that walk around on all fours. And I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
amazing.
Interesting.
I was gonna go another place with this, but I got sidetracked by TJ Klune because I
Well,
absolutely
then
love him.
not to switch gears. I guess I could ask you because it's Sonic. I always want to ask you. How did you feel about the romantic aspect of the Dead Children's Playground?
I got to be honest, it didn't bother me at all. Like
Okay, good.
I think that's one thing that you do extremely well, and I love it, right? Is that you actually get invested in all of these people. So the stuff that develops between um, any of your characters, and in every book I've read, it all feels so natural. So it's just a natural progression. There's nothing that feels forced or you're just putting in there because you want to add a romance factor. Right.
And
You're not just adding something to add this sort of element. It's just all naturally develops, and you do that every single time. And I think it's amazing. Like even in My Pet Werewolf with the stepdad, where he becomes more and more vile as the book goes on, it again is a natural progression. And the stuff, it's Bailey, right? What's the girl's name?
Brandy.
Brandy, sorry. The things that she goes through continue to escalate, and it feels natural with her stepdad. So, and that's the part that I love about your writing, is none of it is forced, with the exception of the beginning of Black Friday, because it sort of has to be, right? Because you just have like this mass of people and you're just trying to give everybody snippets into who some of these people are.
Right.
It's not that it's forced, it's just it's a giant group shot and you're trying to get snippets here and there.
Yeah, it's tough. You got to establish because you got to make people care about them, and
right. But you do that really well with your main characters in that book, where you know when they get approached by Vortex's people, you know about how they're, what the other things that they're dealing with in their life and what's driving them to get into this situation.
Gotcha.
Mark?
Hello.
You didn't answer. What about you for werewolves?
I did answer, Jim. You just.
I ignore you, so to me it's like you didn't answer.
No, I was saying, if we're talking about quadrupedal, it's going to be American Werewolf in London. Bipedal is going to be Dog Soldiers.
So the other question that Lori asked us in the chat is it scarier being a werewolf or becoming a werewolf or being hunted by a werewolf?
Hunted.
That scary hunted. I mean, being a werewolf, if you're like a decent person, is more guilt ridden and more shameful and more tragic in a way. But as far as being scary, being in the crosshairs of the drooling. And it's funny because like the big thing in mind, like, and you just nailed it about the character, it's losing your humanity because. Like the one character that's, Gunther starts out good, but he's losing his humanity. He's fighting to keep it. And, the other character is already evil. So he just becomes even more vile as it goes on. So that's what I'm going to explore. And that's going to be the interesting thing about, again, without spoilers, because the title is a very big spoiler and who the werewolf is a very big spoiler, but, and might be given it away now. But the sequel is going to deal with a lot of the struggle and trying to keep them grounded in humanity and how they figure that part out.
And James, you making this comment, just I have so many questions. I'm going to be messaging you probably till like 3:00 in the morning.
Oh God,
I have so many questions.
I'm going to fall asleep, but don't be offended if I stop answering. It just means I fell asleep.
That's fair enough.
But that's always a question about when like people transform into like monstrous things, right? You have the normal person who is horrified. But if you're already evil, say you're a serial killer, if you turn into a werewolf, You probably think this is even better, right?
Right,
Or
exactly, and then that's exactly what happens in My Pet Werewolf. And the interesting thing, and the thing I'm planning on doing on this next one is, like with My Pet Werewolf and then Gunther, there's going to be a companion. I don't know if it's going to be a novel or novella, but there's going to be a companion book to it that's going to be named after one of the main characters, and it's going to deal with that character's. It's going to, half of it is going to be the events between, because there's 3 years between the end of My Pet Werewolf and book 2. And the first half of the companion book is going to cover what happens in between, and from that other character's perspective, not Brady's. And then the second half is going to go concurrent and deal with the events of book 2 from that character's perspective. Because
Do you know what I really want to see in a werewolf book?
that
Puppies.
Oh.
I want to see, like, I would love to see a scene.
Jim, I never thought I'd hear you say you want to see some puppies.
I really think it could be quite fun or quite horrifying for a mother to give birth, let's say twins or triplets or whatever, and then they shift on her as infants.
Jim,
that could be a lot of fun.
So here's another idea.
Let's just say there's a reason the one after that's called My Pet Werewolves.
Oh, thank you, James, for making my dream come true.
Oh, it will.
Here's another idea, like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Uh-huh.
What if it was told from the point that the person's evil and a serial killer, and they drink a potion and they become good, and they have to struggle with that? It's like
that's an interesting concept. And it's funny. I remember when the first Disney Star Wars came out, The Force Awakens, which I actually didn't like. I actually enjoyed it. But the thing I loved about the villain, Kylo Ren, Darth Vader's grandson, in that is that he was usually there was always the dark side user, that somebody, a Jedi, a good guy, was struggling with becoming a bad guy. But in that one, he was already a dark side user, and he was struggling because he kept getting pulled toward the light side. And that was a very interesting. I mean, they completely botched it and ruined it in the franchise in general. I usually don't like to talk bad, maybe I'll have to work with a studio someday, but you know what? You screwed up Star Wars, Disney. I don't care what anybody says. And you're not hearing that from anyone. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Fair enough. Lori said she'd love to see
Jekyll. I'm going to write that.
There you go.
So Lori said that she'd love to see a good werewolf who goes after serial unalivers.
So again,
what if Dexter was a werewolf?
Well, that's gonna be part of the sequel. Because if you read the epilogue of My Pet Werewolf, you'll know that that's kind of where we're heading. And of course, good intentions go bad. So yes, you guys are kind of prophetic here.
So how much I was excited about my stuffed Gunther, right? So are we? I guess that it's probably too early to ask, but will there be merchandise to go with the new books?
You know what? I'm gonna give you guys an exclusive.
Ooh.
I've literally not revealed this anywhere, but I'm full of good homemade pizza and a glass of apple juice, so I'll show you.
Oh, here we go, guys. It's an exclusive. I'm so excited.
So yeah, I'm gonna have this with the next book, with Devil of the Pines.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Nice.
That is awesome. Now I know I got to order the book. When is that going up for pre-sale?
As soon as I finish writing it, I format it. I'm trying to get it up for the last week of September. So yeah, I'm gonna have little Jersey Devils to go with it at times, for special orders and bundles like I do with Gunther.
I'll show you my favorite piece of merch that I've ever bought. One sec.
Okay.
Thank God he's gone, right, James?
What?
He's gonna be messaging you all night.
I know. Well, I'm falling asleep like 10 minutes after this. Don't worry.
So
I don't blame you.
Everybody,
drink apple juice. Oh, hi, Jim.
Mark, what's one of my favorite horror movies ever?
Twilight.
Stop being a dick.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
God damn it.
Quarantine.
For the record, real quick, Jim, I will say this. I just finished 1923, the Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone prequel. Yeah. And Jennifer Carpenter does have an appearance in it in the later episodes. And I swear to God, every time she showed up on screen, the first person I thought of was you.
My disdain is becoming ubiquitous,
Yes,
apparently.
yes.
So this is my favorite purchase at a horror con ever.
Zuzu.
Yes. I was so happy when I found this, and I don't know why. I've started getting into the more weird stuff. I don't know about weird stuff, but like when I buy merch and souvenirs at a con, I go for the stuff you don't see very often. Like I have a full-size replica of the It's Alive baby.
Nice.
Hey, what about this over here?
Nobody cares, Mark.
Do you know what this is?
I
No.
don't. I can't really see.
Have you seen Pandorum? The movie?
No, I have not seen Pandorum.
It's a screen-used wardrobe from.
That's pretty damn cool.
It is.
Let me see. I gotta see if I can find something for you. It's not. Where's if I have it? I have to dig it out. Is it under here? This isn't. Oh, shit, it is.
You are right, Lori. Aliens is one of my favorite movies.
I have something to bring up about aliens, by the way.
All right. Oh, we have a guest, Mark.
Okay.
My sister's here again.
Oh, bring up the Alabama stuff.
Henny, this is James Kaine, one of my favorite authors, and you already know that asshole.
Hi, how are you?
No, he's not an asshole.
Mark?
No, he's pretty cool. He's not the C word.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
No,
I'm nice.
I could be C wordy, but that's okay.
It's all good. We're talking about James's new book and then merch.
And I was also going to show you one piece of merch that I really enjoy. That's the original screenplay for Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And it is signed by PJ Souls, Nick Castle, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, and
Wow.
I think that's
Holy
John
shit.
Carpenter. And I think that's John Carpenter.
Wow.
Can you leave that to me in your will?
Nah, it's going my kids.
It's probably going to go to his kids.
But actually, no, so when I bought it, it was signed by everybody except Nick Castle, and then I saw Nick Castle at Monster Mania, and he signed it for me there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Karen and Lori said hi, Penny.
Hi.
But anyway, we were talking about werewolves. Where are we going to next, Mark?
James, do you want to tell anybody all your socials, where to reach out to you, where to get all your stuff, your cool merch,
Definitely.
your books, your blood type, whatever you want to throw
Well,
out there.
I got my website is www.jameskane.com. If you go to my merch store, it's under the link shop there. Actually, until May 31st, you can get 10% off anything in the shop with code MAYHEM. That's MAY-HEM. So 10% off until May 31st. They get all signed books, merch. You can get your stuff Gunther. Jersey Devils are not up yet, but they will be hopefully end of September.
Can't wait.
And you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram as James Kaine Writes. X, I'm never on there, but if you so want to see me as James Kaine Books, I don't ever see myself posting anytime soon or ever, but regardless. And then YouTube is at Horror House Publishing. And I really don't do much on YouTube, but I will probably at some point do a little bit more.
You're on YouTube right now, buddy.
Yeah.
So James, I know you've got some movies you want to talk about.
Yeah,
sure.
But before I forget, I've been watching like some of like my favorite horror movies, and I came to the conclusion I would like to like just change a little bit, and I think it would make the movies even better. So I just wanted to see both of your thoughts.
Okay.
So the first one is actually the same thing I'd change about two movies. So John Carpenter's The Thing,
okay,
and Predator.
Okay.
I would remove the first like 5-10 seconds of the UFO heading to Earth.
Fair enough. I could see that because it would probably be a little more of a mystery.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
I agree.
Yeah. Also, aliens, Jim. You know what it started to bug me after watching it like so many times is when Ripley's, in there talking about what she did to the company, blah, 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 there's an alien on it. But the guy waits to the very end to tell her, oh, by the way, we've had people living there for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
Why didn't he say that while she was like saying there's an alien there, right?
Do you know the one thing that I would change about aliens?
What?
Is the deleted scene where you find out about Ripley's daughter, because it makes the relationship between her and Newt more feasible.
Yep, I
So,
agree 100%.
Yeah, for the theatrical cut.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's 100%.
I don't know why they cut that, because it was only,
It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah, if even.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between studio executives and creatives, and creatives understand you have to have time to let a movie breathe, and studio executives just worry about how many showings they can get in.
You know what's funny though is I never noticed that disparity until I became an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never realized that it was a problem with the story until I became older, and went, why does she have a relationship with this kid? Like, why is she so invested?
Because people have empathy, Jim. I've tried to explain to you what empathy is before. I don't think I can do it again, but never.
Fair enough.
The one thing, it's interesting. That's one thing I was actually going to make a post about, but I never got around to it. It's working with editors, especially good ones now as a writer, and reading other books, and it really helps you understand like critiquing a story, and you try not to be too critical. Like at least I do. I mean, I always take it as, and I get myself in trouble all the time, and I'm sure I'm about to in probably the next 20-30 seconds, but I try to not critique, because again, I hope to have movies one day and be in that side of it, and you don't want to critique it too much, but you really do kind of understand sometimes what storytelling, how people really miss things in storytelling. And sometimes even with my own work, it makes me paranoid when I'm writing. I'm like, all right, did I explain this? Did I explain that? Did I get this age wrong? Did I do there's so many things that go into it, to being a careful, intentional storyteller.
It's natural to sit there and judge,
Yeah. And I'm finding myself more and more, I guess, is the point of being judgmental. The more I learn about story that I'm working with, and I credit that to working with really good editors, like the guy Lewis I worked with, and now I'm working with Heather Ann Larson's been editing my books recently, and I'm working with another editor on this one. I'm really hoping to get it to her on time, because I'm excited to work with her, and it's they really do teach you how to look at things with a more critical eye.
But no matter what you do, some people just won't like it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Someone told me my book Pursuit.
Apart from this podcast, which everybody loves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they like one part of this podcast, the other one they can't stand.
Oh, thank you.
And it's evenly divided, right? Like there's Team Mark and there's Team Jim, and it's okay.
Team pedantic, Team pretentious, right?
That's right. So, James, let's talk about some of the movies you wanted to talk about. And I'm not going to lie, I should have made a list, but I didn't. So I'm going to let you drive the movies you want to talk about.
All right. So I guess what you're really getting at is you want to talk to me, don't you?
We can. Let's go.
All right.
I mean, I personally like the movie.
I am the only person on earth, I feel, that doesn't like that movie.
What didn't you like about it?
The whole premise was not done well. I get it. I get that it's a metaphor for addiction. I get that. I get the whole thing. My problem is that I found the characters all pretty unlikable. They were all just kind of snarky and whiny and, teenagery, which I guess as I'm turning into an old man, I guess that bothers me more. But
yeah,
as someone that's written books about teens, so go figure. But no, the biggest thing that they touched his hand and they have this experience and they keep doing it, but it never, ever once shows them having a positive experience by touching the damn hand. Like, what are you getting addicted to? Like, if you get it, I can get it, feel good, but like scary, messed up stuff happens right away.
But I mean, the same can be said for horror, right? When you read it, you get an adrenaline high going through that fucked up shit, right? Or just after, when you reach a resolution.
So
yeah, but I mean, it's experiencing horror in real life, at least in the context of the movie, is different than I always write about how horror is cathartic because it helps you experience that fear in a controlled environment. That was not a controlled environment because bad stuff started happening right away. And there was really no reason for them to keep touching that damn hand.
Like I didn't, so I like the movie more so because, I mean, I think it's a fairly standard kind of possession type movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing, I did like the interactions with kids. I thought it was more believable. I don't think it's addiction. I think it's more like taking drugs with your friends as you're growing up, and it's like a dare thing, right? And that's
Yeah.
where the thrill comes from. Are you going to do it now? Okay, you can do it now.
I don't know.
And again,
I just think it went too far into the messed up stuff too quickly. Like I gotta tell you, you know which movie I think actually did it better is
Sure.
Witchboard. Witchboard did it better.
Did it?
yeah.
I mean, I love
Absolutely.
Witchboard. Don't get me wrong. I love
No,
the
it
movie.
absolutely did. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I recently rewatched it again, and it's funny because it's not a great movie, but
Yeah.
there's a great movie in there somewhere. Because
Yeah, I don't disagree. I love Witchboard, even
because
though
there
it's not-
actually there was actually moments of dialogue that I'm like, it was like very authentic, and it'd be like hokey, and then there'd be like a line, and I'm like, wow, that's actually very realistic and very authentic. And then it would go back into hokey. And the thing about Witchboard is they established that Tawny Kitane's character wants to have a child. That's a big desire of hers. Then she starts talking to David on the Ouija board, and he starts out by being helpful. He helps her find her ring that she lost. And then he gradually starts revealing himself as Malphader, and
Right.
that's what happens. And that's what I think was missing in Talk to Me. There was no gradual buildup to get them hooked. Like it's like you didn't need that gateway into it.
Another one that you could also reference is The Gate, right?
Yeah,
It's got kind of the same sort of,
the heavy
hey,
metal.
let's do this for fun, and then things start to build up.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think just because it's like Australian or New Zealand, and growing up in the UK, very similar kind of
Uh-huh.
parties and doing shit like that. I don't know if it's
Yeah, no, I get. Like I've done Ouija boards, and we had a pretty scary experience doing it. And it's like I get it, but it's like I didn't go running back to do it the very next day.
But there is a method of control for that, right? You let go of the hand and you're done.
Yeah, but but it felt like it just right away started spilling over into the real world almost instantly. Like she
That's
touches
fair.
the hand,
Okay.
then it starts spilling over, and then she goes back and touches it. Like the minute that I see a real life ghost in front of me, I'm like, I'm not touching the hand. I'm like, oh shit.
But
Done.
I will say the main character though, she's trying to get in touch with her mom.
Right. She's got a definite point.
Oh.
She's looking to deal with her grief and the loss of her mom, which is why she keeps touching the hand.
Which is fine, but like it's just like if I recall, I mean, it wasn't like she talked to her mom in a normal setting. Like if they come up with the spirit of her mom, I can understand I keep doing it. But me watching all these idiots at the party, like having fun and laughing when this stuff is already spilling up. Like again, I think a lot of movies need to be longer, to be honest with you,
That's
because
fair.
they don't let characters breathe. They don't give the audience time to get to know them. They just got to go right into it because they're afraid if not, then they're going to get called boring and slow. And you know what? Maybe that's legitimate because I think attention spans these days are not what they were. So I mean, there probably is more legitimacy to that. But
what I will say is it does critique that in the movie whenever they approach the person that gave them the hand, like in the bus or whatever. And it's almost like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. That's fucking stupid. And they're all, okay, well, we were doing this.
But it's like, and like again, I think almost like it's not the same thing, but I think like It Follows is better. It's like, hey, I'm sorry I put you through this.
It Follows is garbage.
I liked It Follows. I thought that was better.
They have one scene, the beach scene, which was good. The rest of it's terrible.
I like It Follows, but I don't. And this was something they did deliberately, was take out any adult character like the parents or anything. They're not in the movie.
They are, though. One of the
not,
moms is in the movie.
They were, but not a lot.
As far as being actual main characters.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I see your point.
It's all just the teenagers doing
Yeah.
stuff independently. And that's the only thing. It just kind of like it made it more unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, there's choices people make, and there's things that they do, and some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, what other movies, James, do you want to talk about? Any other hot takes?
Let's see. That's probably my hottest take, and now it's become a joke in the community because everybody's like, "Oh, this guy didn't like to me. Laugh at him." What have I seen lately? I just
did you see Clown in a Cornfield?
No, I have not. I have not seen it. I have not read the book. It's funny. After I'm done with Devil of the Pines, I'm legitimately slowing down. Like I'm not gonna stop writing. Like I'm still gonna write every day, just about, but I'm not gonna be putting myself up with these major deadlines, and I want to sit and watch movies because like last night I tried the whole family we watched Until Dawn, and I liked what I saw, but I only saw 25% of it because I literally got up yesterday. I wrote, I went outside, I cut the grass. It took me 2 hours to do lawn work. We had our toilet completely like stopped working, so I had to go install. I bought a new toilet. We put that in, and then wrote some more. Had dinner, and then by the time everything was done, we sat down to watch this movie, and I was just like out. And what I saw, I liked, but like I'm just the time I have to watch movies right now is like I haven't seen Sinners. I want to see that. I haven't seen Clown in the Cornfield. Until Dawn was one I wanted to see, so I was glad it was on demand, so I could watch that last night. Or I'll have to watch it again now. But
so the book Clown in a Cornfield suffers sort of like My Pet Werewolf, where everybody thinks it's YA because that's how it's classified.
Mm-hmm.
But I will recommend watching the movie first.
Okay.
But the first 2 books are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely top tier, especially if you enjoy slashers.
Yeah. And, it's funny about that because the difference is that, Adam Caesar himself, and I asked him this at AuthorCon, he says he will call it YA. Like, I don't consider My Pet Werewolf YA.
I will say this. This is going to be a hot take. I wish Adam Caesar all of the success with this film that he can get, right? Because I want him to be successful. I love his writing. However, the movie is everything I was afraid to read in the book, and I did not get it in the book.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to have to – I fully plan on doing both. I have the copy he signed on my bookshelf, and I will absolutely watch the movie. So that's something we'll have to table until I get a chance to see it.
We will. And Tim was kind enough to get me a signed copy of the new cover. That's awesome.
That was awesome, yeah.
Mark, what's the newest movie you've seen?
You know what? I haven't watched shit.
Really?
I'm telling you, my ADHD.
That's the end shit part of the podcast.
That's right.
Plus, I got this cruise coming out. I was just like so busy, I haven't been able to sit and watch anything.
God forbid.
But I did watch one movie, and it's Ninja 3. The
Domination.
Yeah.
I remember that one from when I was a kid. I saw that, and then the next day I wanted to be a ninja.
And it is, I mean, if you talk about like quintessential 80s, and they, obviously the first 2 ninja movies weren't horror movies, but this one tries to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's a possession movie, where an aerobics instructor, of course, because it's in the 80s, she becomes possessed by a ninja that was recently killed by the cops.
That's what's her name with the hair? Oh my God!
I know that's every woman in the 80s.
Yeah, that's not
I can't think of her name, but like she's pretty well known. But she
was in like Electric Boogaloo. And
she's got this giant hair in Ninja 3. And I'm not gonna lie, I loved Ninja 3. I loved it.
Sho Kosugi's in it, as he's in every ninja movie in the 80s.
Yep.
And it's so like the cop that is her boyfriend is just the worst fucking person to her.
Yeah.
And she's just all like, what the fuck are you doing? You should be killing him, not anybody else. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's not up there like so bad it's good like Samurai Cop or anything like that. Yeah. But it's definitely entertaining. It was the first time I watched it. So
Lucinda Dickey.
Yeah. And her in Break Into Electric Boogaloo. Perfect cheese. Absolutely perfect cheese. Those movies are terrible and I love them.
Yeah, there's a great I don't remember the name of it, but there's a great documentary about Kaine movies. And it just goes all the way through, like all the way up to Superman 4 that ruined the studio. But it's really good.
I'll tell you, have you guys watched the In Search of Darkness documentaries?
Yep.
Yes.
I love that. So I just bought the 1990s one because it's not on streaming. It's not on. They're only giving digital copies away, and I started watching that. And it's funny because like I'm watching all these movies they're talking about from the early 90s, and
Mhm.
it's basically still 80s movies. Like
Yeah.
like you think of the 90s, you think of like Scream or House on Haunted Hill or 13 Ghosts or whatever.
Right.
And but it's really there's still those 80 cheesy styles at the front of it.
Take the first 2 years of a new
Mhm.
decade, and they're
Yeah.
still the previous decade.
When they're showing movies like Frankenhooker and Meridian
Love it.
and
Oh, Frankenhooker scared the shit out of me as a kid.
So like I liked In Search of Darkness, the first one,
uh-huh.
but it was not a lot of new information. And
No,
it's,
it wasn't.
and
But
it's a lot of the same, Halloween or whatever. But In Search of Darkness Part 2 was much more interesting because it covered
right,
like more
deep cuts.
Italian stuff, like foreign stuff, and lesser known stuff. So
Yeah, that's what's great about it because it's like it's almost like this ADHD of watching like a bunch of horror movies in like
Mhm.
2 hours.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been going through that one. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple other ones I have seen recently. Like I actually really like Nosferatu, and I'm not usually big on the artsy stuff, but like plot wise, it wasn't like the most coherent, but visually, I loved it.
As soon as I heard there was Vampire Dong, I just lost all interest.
No, like I
That
like
was a selling point for me. No, I'm kidding.
like I've liked the previous Egger stuff, but this one was just so overwrought and over dramatized, and everybody was so tan. And I guess they're trying
I
to
definitely
do what he wanted, but it seemed more like a comedy to me. Like after like 30 minutes, I was like really.
You know what the crazy thing about that though is all the talk about the Vampire Dong. I figured it'd be more impressive than it actually was.
Do you know that
that's what they're talking about?
Do you know that he actually had it framed and gave it to one of his co-stars?
No, that's pretty. That seems like that would be problematic. But
yeah, the co-star loves it. He displayed it over his mantle and shit. It's
what an absolute dick.
Yeah, right? And then I saw recently after that we watched Heretic, which I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Have not seen that one yet.
It's great seeing Hugh Grant play against type, and the performance he gives is really. And I think and Sophie Thatcher is really good because then we watched the other one, Companion, which was just kind of cheesy and all, but it was good.
Is it fun?
Just got to get used. Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's not the most unpredictable movie I've ever seen, and Jack Quaid is very good at playing Jack Quaid every movie. And nobody plays Jack Quaid like Jack Quaid does.
I will say he's got the charisma of his dad. Like he can carry a film just by being himself.
Yeah, and that's all he does, but it's good. It's like I want to watch Novocaine. That looks really good.
Yep.
And
I like the first half of Heretic. I didn't like the second half.
Yeah, it did definitely got a little odd. The first half was definitely. I'll definitely agree with you on that.
Although even in the first half, I'm like, I know these are like Mormon. They're not experienced in the world.
Right.
But when he's like, oh, the front door's locked and the power went out. You can't get out now. And they're just like, oh, okay. I'm like, really? Really? Yeah. You think like the front door, like, I don't know. But I like I said, I liked half of that movie. I thought the second half was less.
That's how I felt about Barbarian. I like half.
Those are two different movies, really.
The sentiment.
No, I understand exactly. I know exactly what Jim means. Like once the tension of the first half is a lot different than the creature feature in the second. Although it is always funny seeing Justin Long in these situations. He kind of.
I swear they should have had a third different story and just made it an anthology.
Yeah,
because that's how it felt.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. I can definitely see that, and I'm very interested to see his net. Was it called Weapons or something with the kids?
Mm-hmm.
That looks really good.
Oh right, yeah, I have seen that preview for that. But I will say my favorite Justin Long role is "It's a Wonderful Knife."
I have not seen that one.
It is an absolutely cheesy slasher, right? But Justin Long plays this slimy politician. And his teeth are like this bright white. He's got this terrible spray tan.
Interesting.
And it was just the character itself. His teeth were more fascinating than the way that they wrote the character, but I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Speaking of cheesy slashers, you guys see Hard Eyes?
I did.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. It's funny. We were going to see. So I was taking my son and his friends. We got tickets to go see The Monkey, and
I loved it.
I went to go sit, and I go to the theater, and I found out I bought the tickets for a week later.
Oh
'cause they
no.
haven't come out. So I'm like, shit, we gotta see something. And like Hard Eyes was our only choice. And I thought it was fun. It's not gonna make me think about anything in life at all.
No.
But and you know, I think it was weird because it skirted a strange line because like I felt like the humor was too much for a horror comedy. It was like it wasn't supposed to be that slaps. Like it was a weird tonal like sharp. But overall, I mean, I had a lot of fun with it.
So it went from being a rom-com to a horror comedy, but then that beginning scene with the first couple
Oh
was
yeah,
almost like a straight
it was so
slasher,
good. Yeah,
right? So it vacillated so much through the entire
right,
production, and it sort of got stuck in the comedy without
right.
being too much of anything else.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, that was definitely
but it was
that's
fun.
very much worth a watch.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mark,
Jim, what
have
have
you
you
seen
watched?
it?
No,
Okay, fair enough.
I told you I haven't been watching anything for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I'm really dying to see, and I probably will do it this week since the price came down. Death of a Unicorn.
Oh, so we saw that
Oh
2 weeks.
and
Very fun. I mean,
good.
Paul Rudd is very watchable. I mean, he was the best part about Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, AKA Michael needs to go on a diet, as I like to call it.
right.
But you know, it's absurd. And so my daughter is like she's funny because she is the biggest girly girl you could find, but she also has that like Wednesday Addams side to her. Which ironically, because Jenna Ortega's in it, and we like you know, we watched Wednesday and we watch all that stuff together. Like, but she loves unicorns, like unicorns, princesses. That's her. And so and she loves horror too. So when there's a unicorn horror movie out, you know, we had to see it. And
Yeah,
it's really hard to kind of describe, but it's definitely worth a watch. And it's got, I think it's got that Hard Eyes type of vibe, but I think it strikes a better balance with the horror and the comedy. Like tonally, it kind of stays even throughout.
yep. I'm not going into this movie looking for a masterpiece. I'm looking for a movie I'm going to have fun with.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, why would you go in looking for a masterpiece?
At this point, I've given up on that.
So James, you're a big Halloween fan, right?
I am.
So what do you think of the last 3 Halloween movies?
I think we talked about this last time.
Did we? I don't
Yeah,
know.
here's the thing. I've been a little bit kinder to them because I'm the kind of guy like, all right, so let me first, when we talk about like remakes and reboots and sequels, I'm like, well, please stop making them. Like I even commented on an article. I was like, don't make another Jurassic Park. And I'm like, why? You don't have to watch it. You don't have to pretend it exists. You know, I pretend the last Star Wars trilogy doesn't exist. Make it. Maybe it'll be good. If it's not, I'll just pretend it doesn't exist. That's all. Yep. You know, so make it, try it. All right. So the weird thing, I'm going to go a little bit backwards because the backlash to Halloween Ends was so bad that, and deservedly so in a lot of spots. It was so bad that there was this retroactive idea that people were saying, well, David Gordon Green didn't direct anything good. Halloween 2018 was not good. That's bullshit. Halloween 2018 was good. Everybody loved it when it came out. Everybody was, and I don't, everybody except Mark loved it when it came out, but most people loved it when it came out. I thought it was it wasn't a perfect movie, but again, for my favorite slasher, when you got to figure, we had Halloween, which was a masterpiece, Halloween 2, which was very good, Halloween 3, which I think has gotten a lot of retroactive relooking at it. I watched it again recently. I don't think it's I don't think it's the hidden gem that is being said, but it's not as bad as it was. Then Halloween 4, which in my opinion is the best of the sequels. That was just fantastic. Like that caught the perfect tone of dread and being trapped, and this Michael was great in it. But then we go to Halloween 5, which completely goes off the rails. It has some moments. Don't get me wrong. There are some actually really good moments, Halloween 5, but the plot line and the Man in Black and not knowing, it's like J.J. Abrams did it. It's like, we're going to start a bunch of shit. We don't know where it's going. Then the absolute disaster of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to form with Halloween H2O. Now, Halloween H2O was great. I loved it when I saw it. Does not hold up as well. It's still got that. It feels more like a Scream movie watching it.
Yeah, it's very 90s.
But I love the Scream movies. So
I love the Scream movies too. But if I want to watch a Scream movie, I want to see a Scream. I actually love all the Scream movies, but that's the topic for another time. But but then we go to Seth's return. Then we get the absolute abomination as Resurrection.
No, whoa, hang on.
Uh-oh.
The opening of that film was a masterpiece.
The opening of that film was good.
Yeah, the rest of the movies is a cinematic abortion, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't say it's not, but still an abomination. Even if the first 10 minutes are good, you know.
yeah, I don't disagree, but I kid you not, I was standing up and cheering when Laurie fell off the building. I was so excited. But anyway, I digress.
Well, regardless,
Jimmy, there was people behind you in the movie theater. They don't want you standing up.
That's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, so it was not a great movie, in my opinion, the worst of the movies.
Fair enough.
Then
Sort
we
of like
go,
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. Then we go to Rob Zombie, who fundamentally misunderstood everything about the character. Does not understand that there are different types. Like if you're talking sending a movie in suburbia, you don't want everybody to be a redneck. It's just like
Right.
there are people that live in certain areas. It's just like kind of like not everybody's a long-haired redneck that says the F word all the time. That's every character in every movie he does.
That's right.
And then he goes off the rails even more with how. So we get all of this, and then we wait 9 years, and then Halloween 2018 is a return to form. It is.
Yes, agreed.
I think a little bit too heavy on the humor at times. But overall, I mean, it had the best representation of a Halloween night
Yes.
as any of them.
I agree.
And that scene, I actually wish the scene where he goes door to door killing people was a little longer. He probably could have used maybe 2 or 3 more kills, which I thought that would have been great. But I appreciate that. So then Halloween Kills. The part they think they misunderstood there is they made the same mistake as Halloween 2 did, which was basically sidelining the main character for most of it in the hospital. Now, granted, I'm not like the hugest, like I can tell you're not a big Laurie Strode fan, but I don't know if like people wanted to see that more.
Sorry, James. Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah,
I don't think they misunderstood, made the same mistake as Halloween 2. They copied it, right? Like they copied a lot of the stuff that was good in, minus that part. But the good stuff was the stuff they copied. But then they kept on repeating it, and then they were like, they got to the third one where like it is the Rian Johnson Star Wars. We're going to rewrite everything. But they didn't realize this was supposed to be the end of a trilogy, not the start of something else.
Right. Yes. And sorry.
Sorry, this dipshit that they were like, oh, he's going to be like the new Michael Myers. Like, none of it made sense.
Yeah.
And it was badly done.
Well, real quick, Jim, before you...
Just
to say, so back to Kills for 1 second. The problem with Kills, and it was maddening because they talk about this in 2018. There's the scene where they're walking to school and Dave blows up the pumpkin. And before that, he goes like, well, is, some guy stabbing 3 people in the grand scheme 40 years ago in the grand scheme of thing, like really the biggest deal, like the trauma of Haddonfield is probably a little bit dramatic and overblown because
it doesn't
again, you got to figure if I live in Hamilton. There's this like neo-Nazi brothers that stab some people to death. Like everybody knows about it. They got arrested. They got to jail, but it's not like we're all traumatized by it.
In between those 2 time periods, between the first one and the second one, there was probably 50 school shootings. Right. But they're also obsessed about this guy that killed a few people.
Right. It wasn't earned. It wasn't earned.
So what it did was it didn't play to the characters, it played to the audience, right? So we're like, oh, we're going to tell everyone that everybody's traumatized because the audience has seen Halloween movies since 1979.
Right.
So we're all going to be like, oh yeah, we remember all that. Doesn't make any sense for the characters.
But that's the problem that's not my problem with Halloween Kills.
And Evil dies tonight, Jim.
Shut up, Mark. The problem with Halloween Kills is every character that you've been rooting for 30 years now becomes the problem. The town is the problem. Laurie Strode is the problem. She legitimately is the reason her family members die. from that point forward because she keeps getting in the way. She won't just go live her life, and she consistently throws her family in the fray.
But you know, Jimmy, you're right, and that's part of the maddening stuff because in Halloween Ends, there's that great moment where she confronts the woman that got stabbed in the neck, confronts her outside the grocery store. Look, she can't even talk because of you, because of what you did. Like, but it's all these little like things that they never fully explore.
But that doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm like, it wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis. It wasn't her that stabbed her in the neck, right? Like,
no, but what you're saying is
up this trauma and forcing it down the throats of everybody in
that's
town.
what they're saying. It's like this whole town knew Lori as this crazy person for years, and then this guy finally breaks out again. Of course, they're going to blame her because she's the one perpetuating it. Like,
right?
But how would like put this in like the actual world, right?
Yeah, where people have perfectly rational responses and focus on the problem, right?
How would you connect the dots between? Laurie Strode is here and she's blah 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 blah. Got PTSD, right? And Michael breaks out, but it's her fault that Michael breaks out, comes there.
Because Laurie is who perpetuated the legend of Michael Myers. She's the one that's kept it going. She's the one that's been saying. And so when he finally comes out, it's like, everybody just assumes because she's been the one spreading it that he's after her. So of course they're and you got to remember, in the real world, people don't always have measured and rational responses.
That's fair.
But how do they know? Like,
but that's not the thing.
Everybody in the city know who Laurie Strode is, and like that she has been holding on to this. Like
that's no.
Like, how do they like? How are they? What's the connective tissue there?
Here's the connective tissue, right? In Halloween 2018, her character is dealing with PTSD and being a doomsday prepper, making sure that her family is protected. In Halloween Kills, she starts hunting. She brings him out in order to try and end it for herself and gets everybody else in the way.
No. Well, hang on. Everybody else, is this like a 3-person, 10-person village?
Yeah, but wait, in Halloween Kills, she's not the one hunting. She's in the hospital.
I have a simple solution. Laurie Strode
encourages the mob mentality.
And her granddaughter actually, and I'm glad they brought this up. Buy a plane ticket, get a visa, go move to somewhere else in the world.
Exactly.
You're not going to have this problem.
Right.
It's funny too because so in Halloween Kills, I believe Tommy Doyle's character. Like, he's this guy that has done nothing about it. He's this guy that's done nothing with his life, really. He's he's actually, his trauma and his experience as a child is what defines him. So yeah, he, like Laurie, is holding on to it just in a different way. And that's because I've known guys like him, like that, that they got to make the problem about them. And then when they see an opportunity so like when there's this problem in front of them and they think they can solve it, they'll go out like they're some giant hero. And even though they're not qualified to solve the problem, they'll do it. So Tommy Doyle is actually a very believable character in that way. The problem with a lot of it is that they're all equally traumatized and they all turn into Dr. Loomis. And only Dr. Loomis talks like Dr. Loomis. The problem is everybody started talking like Dr. Loomis.
Right.
And that was very cheesy and off-putting to the audience.
Yeah, yes. I agree.
And I totally agree that individual people can hold on to certain things and be about it. But the whole town, it's just like it.
You're right. That's the whole thing about the trauma not being earned and them making a bigger deal out of it. And yeah, you're right. Individual people could do it, but that's what the problem was. And then when they're all chanting "evil dies tonight," like that really spread pretty quickly. Considering Tommy just said it inside and everybody's saying it outside. And then why, out of all the inmates, there was like one inmate that was like younger that actually was like about the same height. And like, why would they believe that the penguin running through the thing was Michael Myers? That killed me. Like, I mean, his death's gnarly, but why would they think that guy is Michael Myers?
Because I swear these movies were written for the audience mentality, not the character's mentality.
Yeah, no, Mark, that's actually probably the one of the best ways I've heard it put.
I disagree because as a fan of these films, I did not want to see the product I got. That movie was not written for me as a fan.
No.
That movie was written for mass appeal.
It's written for the broader people who've seen Halloween and some of the sequels. And there's new Halloween movies coming out.
I think you're both right. Like, yeah, it was written for the audience, but it wasn't necessarily written for the Halloween audience. It was written for a general movie going audience with maybe touching on the Halloween.
So go ahead. Sorry.
When you get to Halloween Ends, again, I personally at the end, I really do like the procession. Again, not earned. Because again, it's like the whole town playing at the rest, but visually it was cool. And I mean, the idea of throwing the slasher into a car grinder is probably the smartest thing anybody in a slasher movie's ever done. So I did like that scene, and there were certain aspects of it, but the problem with that one is, number one, they cast the wrong guy. Look, I can say this as somebody that's 5'8". That dude was way too short. You don't want to be like that, but like Allison is taller than him.
Right.
And if this guy's supposed to be like, I'm sorry, Killer, I want to be, unless you're talking about Chucky, I want to be big and intimidating.
Right.
And, like James Jude Courtney. And I thought he was, I actually, say what you want about the movies, he was a great Michael Myers. He did a great job as Michael Myers.
I mean, the one thing that I did like was some of the brutality of the kills.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But so not to believe, to go over like the Halloween movies too much, talking about David Gordon Green. Mm-hmm. I just want to see what your thoughts are on The Exorcist.
Please don't bring this up.
I love the concept. I love the concept of the girls disappearing, coming back possessed. Everything was just, they spent way too much time in Haiti to start the movie. That was like 15, 20 minutes for a cold open. By that time, it was freezing by the time they actually got into it. The idea of exploring different religions and whatever is interesting, but again, exorcism is a Catholic rite, so it's call it the demon possession movie or whatever. But and then it just, I don't know, that everything felt too rushed. I think what's her name, the woman that came back? Why can't I think of her name? The actress that from the original,
Linda Blair, or
no.
Ellen Burstyn.
Ellen Burstyn. She gave one of the worst performances I've ever seen in my life.
Do you know why?
She didn't want to be there?
She did not want to do it. They didn't force her. They pressured her into it and gave into every single one of her demands that were ridiculous.
They didn't force her. She said, I'm only going to be in this movie for like 10 minutes, and you're going and if I'm going to be there, you're going to give my charity like $30 million.
Yeah.
That's more important to have this character in here
and
for all the feels, right?
And she's introduced. She gives one of the worst lines ever about, they won't let me in the exorcism because they're damn patriot. Look, we could talk about the problems with that all you want, but dude, patriarch me the hell out of an exorcism. I don't want to be there. You know what?
Right.
I don't want to be there. Like, trust me, you're better off. Why would you want to be in there? And then within 10 seconds after that, her eyes are getting gouged out, and we don't see her again. I guess she doesn't see either, but.
You don't see her till the end till they bring Linda Blair back, which they were
going
to do.
Hey, it's like the Avengers. You might as well bring out Nick Fury. We're forming a team of exorcists.
Right.
David Gordon Green is all about the member berries.
Yeah.
It's just throwing stuff over. You remember this from Halloween? Mm-hmm. That's really good. We're going to put this in. Or you remember this? Your actress? Wow, she's going to be in this. Where it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't achieve anything other than an audience member going, "Oh, look, Ellen."
You know what? It's
weird.
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I say it's weird because, like, again, there's and this goes back to what I said before about fans having some type of ownership. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, I don't want fan service." I'm like, no, I'm a fan. I want to be serviced. Like, service me. I'm a fan. It's like, because I want to see certain things, and there are certain expectations, and you can't veer too wildly from them. But I think in these cases, they have definitely failed in those cases. But just the whole idea is, like, I remember there was the big thing about the Mandalorian in season 2 when Luke Skywalker showed up, and everybody's like, "Well, no, you just remember Luke." Yeah, because we never got to see a great Luke Skywalker after he became a Jedi because Rian Johnson didn't like Luke Skywalker and had to ruin him.
Right.
I will tell you an even worse, more recent example than that of utter fan service.
Okay.
That ruins a movie. That's all it is, and it's Alien Romulus.
That's
Yes.
Ash, right?
Yeah,
All
Yeah,
of it.
I haven't
The
seen
entire
it.
movie.
all of it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's tough because like, on the one hand, like I know you got to do something different. I know you got to reintroduce new characters, but there's no graceful passing of the torch anymore. We have to make new characters and they have to be automatically better than the old characters, and they have to we have to get rid of the old ones as quick as possible because God forbid, they overshadow the new character, or God forbid they die and we don't get to finish it. Like we should have gotten Luke, Han, and Chewie and Leia together in the movie, and we never did because there's also a kind of I feel there's a kind of creative rejection of fans in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's almost like because now we have social media, they are so opinionated, and you should never necessarily cater your storytelling to exactly what the fans want. But like like for me, if like I have my pet werewolf, I can kind of do what I want with it. I don't have I have a growing platform. I have a platform I'm grateful for, and I really do want to provide a tale that works within the framework of what I've already established.
Right.
But like when you take like a Star Wars or like James Bond or whoever you want, there are certain things you have to do with those characters and with those stories. And if you take over somebody else's, creation, like you want to, like there's this urge to kind of either you're going to just do exactly what they did and screw it up and anger the fans, or you're going to try to make it your own and completely reinvent it and not stay true to what it was. So it's like I don't feel like anybody can strike that balance anymore.
So I will say, just thinking about it, if you look at the mainline Predator movies, although maybe take Predators out of it.
I love Predators. Don't you disparage that movie.
No, but my point is about like the leading person in it, right? Predator, Predator 2, and Prey all have very different leads in it, right? If you look at the Alien movies, Ripley, and then there's always been Ripley, talk about resurrection, but Ripley clones,
right,
that have been there. But Predator, you've had three very different.
Well, that's because the Predator kind of has a more of a personality than the aliens, and that's like the main character, as opposed to the protagonist. There's no central protagonist,
right?
And I think that's something you got to make. That's the decision you got to make when you do that first sequel. Are you going to carry on the villain like Friday the 13th, where it's just different protagonists every time, or Predator, or are you going to make it a arch nemesis like the protagonist, like Laurie Strode, Nancy Thompson to an extent, though even if she was only in two, or are you going to follow the same characters? And I think it works best when you do kind of stick with the same characters, and when it does come time to pass the torch, you do so gracefully. You take the time to establish the new characters before they take it over.
A good sequel pays homage to the first, expands the mythology, and makes itself its own thing. Like Alien and Aliens, for example, I think are a great example of two movies that fit totally together, but they're very different, and one just expands from the first one. So
yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
So, gentlemen, I hate to do this, but I got to wrap up.
All right.
So, James, thank you for coming on again. It's been far too long since we've had a chance to chat. This is always a fun time. So we definitely need to have you back more often for sure.
Yeah, and definitely. Like I said, I'm about to lock myself in a room. Not tonight. I'm tired, but for the next week or two, I'm really going to try to get Devil of the Pines finished up, get that out for September. Get you guys copies to check out, and
can't wait.
I really can't wait to hear your thoughts, because Mark, I'll get you an audio code. I really can't wait to hear your thoughts, because this is going to be pretty epic, I think, and I really hope it. You guys think so too.
I'm excited about it, and I appreciate it. Mark, anything else you want to say before we end it?
Just James, it's always a pleasure. Come back anytime, and wish you all the best, and can't wait for that prequel trilogy to come out.
Yeah. You know what you guys got to do? You got to get me and Tim on here at the same time. I think we got to do.
We're doing that. We've been trying. It just hasn't worked out yet.
Yeah. Once, like I said, once we get through some next couple weeks and stuff, then we can start figuring out for the future.
Oh, we're doing that 100%.
All right, excellent.
100%. Okay.